Serious, what are some of the creepiest declassified documents made available to the public? Memo from Roger Boisjoli on O-ring erosion, months prior to the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. He essentially predicted, and forewarned, that the rocket O-rings would fail if the shuttle launched in cold weather. The NSA and Catalog. It contains a list of capabilities which the NSA and other national security administrations have been in possession of, and use, for the purpose of cyber surveillance. The document was created in 2008 and was made public in 2013. The technology in this document is incredible, and terrifying for the idea of privacy. If you think they don't know everything, they do. These devices are everywhere, could be in any cable, any computer, any phone, any anything. This FBI investigation file titled Animal Mutilation. Back in the 1970s-80s, the media's attention was drawn to some anomalies taking place not only on American cattle farms, but all over the world. Cow corpses were being discovered in fields, missing organs, with surgical holes in their sides, with no blood. For a brief time, this was passed off as a strange coincidence. But eventually, the public got so worked up that the FBI commissioned an investigation. 6 months and $45,000 later, they found nothing. Nothing. No trace of a person, machine, alien, anything. Everyone was left hanging, but strangely, it died down. The reports of animal mutilations have simply stacked up to since then, and to this day there have been excess of 10,000. Operation Unthinkable, the plan for the UK and us to launch a surprise attack against the USSR at the end of WWII. The WikiLeaks documents about PRISM and about the smart device hacking methods, along with how to set said devices into a false off mode. Operation Lack biological warfare testing done on US cities. Principally, the operation involved spraying large areas with zinc cadmium sulfide, which is very toxic. Many who were affected died of cancer, and the testing was never followed up on. Most of the neighborhood's genetic makeup was fucked up for no reason, and no apologies were made. Anything involving Japan's Unit 731 during WWII. It was a military chemical and biological warfare division that experimented on POWs. There is a list somewhere on web of the last words of inmates punished by death in Texas. The Pentagon Papers, they were fairly creepy back when they came out. The JFK assassination documents never fully being released as they keep getting pushed back. The documents themselves are creepy in the sense of how contradicting they are. But what makes it truly creepy is the full release keeps getting pushed back. The Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the African American community. MKUltra. The CIA performing illegal experiments on Americans to try to develop mind control. Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was subjected to grueling, degrading psychological experiments while he was an underage student at Harvard. Gay bomb. It was a weapon speculated by the USA in the 90s that, when dropped, would release pheromones which would make the enemy attracted to each other. Edit, spelling. I think there was a lot of creepy things that came out when the East German Stasi files were released after the Berlin Wall fell. All citizens were allowed to view their own files, and many were shocked to find out that their own relatives were informing on them, because they had no choice, and various other things. A good movie about this is called Other People's Lives. Edit, I got the name of the movie wrong. It's The Lives of Others. There's one where the CIA essentially was researching astral projection and its possible applications for espionage. Operation Northwoods. Proposed false flag attacks against American civilians targets carried out by the CIA and blamed on Cuba in 1962. Thankfully JFK said fuck no and shut that shit down. How America almost nuked itself in the 60s, but the bombs were faulty. Lucky you, East Coast. Lucky you. Operation Mockingbird. It was an operation to manipulate the media for propaganda purposes. But they ended it a long time ago. Honest. How the government made it illegal to expose the government for the illegal things they have done. My university has exchanged letters with Hitler about how they agree with Hitler about the use of eugenics. I believe the letters are in some of the archives in one of our libraries. Surprised I'm the first to mention this, but Nixon's planned speech in case Apollo 11 failed is maybe not serial levels of creepy but still pretty creepy. Yes, the CIA has a heart attack gun. COINTELPRO. Basically the FBI's attempt to infiltrate and disrupt any political organization they deemed dangerous to society in the mid-20th century. They targeted MLK, the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Power Movement, the Socialist Party, Communist Party, Ku Klux Klan, Vietnam protesters, etc. It's also pretty common knowledge that the FBI murdered several key leaders of the Black Power and Civil Rights Movement during this time. The Tuskegee study comes to mind. The study, which ran from 1932 to 1972 by the US Public Health Services, infected poor African Americans with syphilis to see how the disease naturally evolves. Those who took part in the study thought they were receiving free medical care. Get this, none of those who were infected were treated with penicillin despite its known effectiveness. The study stopped when a government employee blew the whistle. There is a famous alien sighting history in a city called Varginha here in Brazil, and the city is mostly known for that particular incident in 1996. A couple of years ago, Brazil's National Archive made public documents that state UFO sightings from civilians and military that dates 25 years before the incident. The Russian tsunami nuclear torpedo. They are still building them today. It may or may not be documented, but is still creepy knowing this. Back during the Cuban Missile Crisis, a US Navy ship was sending depth charges towards a hidden Soviet submarine. The men in the submarine thought war had broken out, and a vote was held whether or not they should take down the ship with a nuclear torpedo. Two captains need to approve in order for the attack to happen. Both captains had approved. But a third man, Vasily Arkhipov, was given a vote as well. He voted no on the attack. Since the vote had to be unanimous, the attack was off the table. Creepy as fuck when you realize how much power men have to be able to destroy the world. The speech prepared for Nixon if the moon landing had failed. Going from memory here, but I remember something along the lines of "the men who landed on the moon tonight will stay on the moon to rest in peace." Gave me all the chills. Paradise Papers. Everyone disregards them, but they pretty much call out every single top 0.00001% wealth and super high power elites in the world for being involved with terrorists, child trafficking, money laundering, you name it. If you haven't given them a read, some of your favorite politicians may surprise you. Edit guys, these people the papers mention are not the ones committing acts such as terrorism and trafficking. However, if you go and read them, they strongly link the organizations these people place their money in, launder their money through, to organizations that have links to these crimes. Project Acoustic Kitty was pretty weird and creepy if you think about how things would be if they were successful. Basically, the CIA wanted to put microphones and transmitters inside of cats and use them to spy on the Soviets in the 1960s. It cost about $20 million and was a huge failure. But the thought of my own pet being used to spy on me is pretty unsettling. The creepiest fact is that even the most horrible declassified files are just small part of the documents that came to light. Too many facts went down the drain. Not sure if it's actually creepy, but there are those FBI, can't remember which, documents about Hitler fleeing to South America, complete with a picture of someone who looks like him taken in Argentina, I believe dated to be 1954. Mars exploration. https://www.sire.gov/library/ReadingRoom/docs/sire-rdp9690001900768R01900760001-9.pdf. The Nanking Massacre photos. My grandpa co-worker wrote a book about it, and it was too much for him. He killed himself. Almost every Chinese writer who wrote about the massacre have killed themselves. During WW2, the US government did racially specific tests on groups of soldiers who were locked into sealed rooms and exposed to mustard gas. The Defense Department was trying to see how useful the gas was and if it would be particularly effective against certain racial groups. The soldiers were sworn to secrecy, denied long-term medical care, and told that if they divulged these tests, even to their family or their own doctors, they'd be prosecuted to the fullest extent possible. This was uncovered by some NPR reporters and was detailed in this excellent, but terrifying, podcast, which has many other really interesting stories. https://www.republica.org/podcast/the-breakthrough-use-as-guinea-pigs-be-then-military-then-discarded. Wait till everything releases about MLK in 2027. Both his legacy and the government are going to take a hit. SIRE's analysis and assessment of the gateway process examining altered states of consciousness. It talks about research they were conducting involving human consciousness, holographic and toroidal models of the universe, transcending space and time, out-of-body experiences, remote viewing. Even if you don't believe in this stuff, it still goes incredibly in depth and is worth a look. Not super creepy, but still. Link to view it in PDF. https://www.sire.gov/rdp96-00788R001700016-5.pdf. There are documents from the CIA detailing experimentation with telekinesis and moving objects through solid glass. There was one with a guy doing remote viewing of Mars in the past. Pretty trippy and probably fake, but the level of detail he presumably pulls out of his ass is impressive. The classified papers released from the American embassy during the Iranian hostage crises. Really cool how the Iranians put the papers back together after being shredded. https://archive.org/details/documents from the U.S.espionage den. On December 5, 1965, a US aircraft carrying a nuclear weapon on board the aircraft carrier USS Ticonderoga fell into the Philippine Sea during a training exercise. The pilot, aircraft, and nuclear weapon was never recovered. What about the Snowden leaks? I myself have no idea to this day exactly what he leaked, if it applies to this thread, nor how to find them. If anybody has some source on this, by all means link me. I've been curious for quite a while now. Not exactly creepy, but you can find tons of letters and reports written by high-ranking government officials and people of that nature about UFOs, encounters, interest on UFOs, etc. Like real government documents, some partially redacted, where they're unironically discussing UFO phenomena. I remember reading one either to or from an earlier US president and another to or from Albert Einstein. To me, it's one of the biggest and most fun and entertaining mysteries and conspiracies ever. There's something out there that would just blow our collective minds. I think the transcript of a girl's texts with her boyfriend, who she convinced and manipulated into committing suicide. He was severely depressed, which obviously made him very vulnerable. Maybe not the creepiest thing ever published, but it was certainly one of the darkest, most morbid things I've ever read. And the fact that it actually happened. Edit, link https://www.scribd.com/doc/276206526/Michelle-Carter-text-s. If any of this teaches you anything, is that the government is constantly looking to fuck you dry. Edit, this is why I don't understand why anyone would want the government to have more power. The Johnstown suicide recording. We can hear Jim Jones convince his followers to commit suicide. We can hear them cry in agony and fear. We can hear explanations of why it is better to kill the children rather than let them be captured. We can hear children crying. We can hear Jim Jones scold those who are hesitant. But the whole thing is made even creepier by the fact that Jim Jones reused his tapes for the recordings a bit too often, causing there to be some real creepy background sounds and backwards music. Operation Paperclip and the amnesty for Unit 731. Both deplorable. Us banks like Chase Bank and Wells Fargo wanted to overthrow the US government. Their plan was to put in place a general after overthrowing the government. How would they have done it? They would have held the economy hostage by preventing any form of money coming out from bank accounts, thus no one can buy stuff and put money into the economy. The reason wise failed. The general they wanted reported them to the feds, and all people responsible were tried and arrested. Operation Buckshot Yankee. The USA Department of Defense was infected by a worm that may or may not be from Russia. The military responses to the worst breach of US military computers in history was Operation Buckshot Yankee. The military says that the operation was successful, but many believe the worm is still active to this day, stealing US military secrets.